The next medium is called as the optical fiber cables. In previous cables are actually transmitted the data in the form of electrical signals. But this optical fiber cable transmits the data in the form of light. In the form of light. This optical fiber consists of a long thin strands of pure glass, sometimes also called as fibers. Strand means a very thin hair-like cables. A bunch of strands of these cables are used for transmitting data in the form of light. Here each strand is it is having a diameter about 5 microns, nearer to your hair diameter. Optical fiber actually made up of 3 components. The first one is called as core here. This part is actually called as core. This core is actually made up of some glass or very flexible glass called as fibers. These are the area where the actual data transmission occurs. These cores are actually surrounded by some optical material called as cladding. This cladding will prevent any light from escaping from the core. If any light tried to goes out, it just reflect back that light into the core. The next component is called as sheath or outer jacket. This outer jacket protects the inner core as well as cladding from external any wear and tear. These are actually made up of some plastic or fiber-like materials. I have already told the optical fiber transmit the data in the form of light. So the both sender as well as receiver has a feature called as codec. The full form of codec is coder and decoder. Whenever the sender wants to send some data, he is using a codec which will convert the data into light and transmitted that light over a optical fiber cable. At the destination, the same codec is used to convert that light into data and give it to the receiver. Depending on the data's light source used in the transmission, it can be categorized into 2 types. The first one is called as multi-mode transmission. Second one is called as single mode transmission. We will learn the both concept one by one in next. The first one is called as multi-mode transmission. In multi-mode transmission, we are using a light source called as LED, that is also called as light emitting diode. One of the property of this LED is after traveling a light for a few distance, it is dispersed. That means spread. Okay, so it is called as multi-mode transmission because the light enters into the core at different angles. So it is called as multi-mode transmission. When we are using LED transmit the data. The light enters into the core. Whenever you use the LED, the light enters into the core by different angles. So it is called as multi-mode transmission. Here, most of the lights are transmitted in the concentrated light here, and some of the lights are just make an angle. Whenever it reaches the clad, it reflect back to the core. Like that it will transmit. See here, it reflect back and transmit like this way. So so the light which is traveling in the center, that is concentrated, will reach first, and the light which is making a reflection, it will take longer time because they have to travel a more distance. They have to travel more distance than this concentrated light here. So this type of this type of transmission mode is little bit slower one. The dispersion and reflection occurs at different angles or modes, resulting in multi-mode transmission. Okay, this is about multi-mode transmission. It has some advantages as well as disadvantages. The first advantage is it is using LED, so it is less expensive compared to single mode transmission. It is less expensive because we are using simple LEDs. One more is, if you are some of the LAN, okay, LAN, if you are want to connect for a large college or school campus, okay, which may be spread across few miles. If the distance is few miles and you want to create a LAN, okay, with high speed data transfer, we are generally using this type of data transfer. It is less expensive, transmit the data at higher speed for a smaller distance. So we are using this type of data transfer. But it has some disadvantages here. Due to dispersion and reflection, the light travel in a greater distance than the rays in the center of the beam. So the speed of this data transmission is reduced. Due to some delay of reflected light, the data transmission becomes very slow. One more disadvantage is collision. Here the multiple lights are reflected. There is a possibility of collision, due to which it will it will weaken the signal strength and resulting in the attenuation. That means signals are weakened as goes on travel. These are some of the problems with multi-mode transmission. In single mode transmission, the light source is called as ILD. Okay, why is ILD? Means injection laser diode. This is the light source in single mode transmission. In one of the property of this diode, laser diode is it will generate concentrated light. That means the light travel in a straight line. It never be dispersed. So it will travel for a longer distance without any attenuation. So if you need the higher data transfer rate, we are generally using single mode transmission. There is no any collision because there is no any attenuation, there is no any dispersion in the light, so there is no any colliding. So attenuation problem is not there in the single mode transmission. But it has also some disadvantage. The first disadvantage is expensive. Yes, we are using some special light source called as ILD, as well as it is made up of some high grade fiber, which makes this type of data transfer expensive. Okay, here the optical fibers are also a good quality, and we need some hardware equipments called as ILD, which is more expensive than LED. One more here, the single mode transmission is generally used as a backbone for connecting multiple LANs, or we are also used this single mode transmission for very large WANs. When we need a high speed data transfer for a longer distance, or we want to connect a very large network with a higher data transfer rate, we are generally using single mode transmission.